Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. How many Spanish-speaking people do we have in the audience? Spanish-speaking people. Yeah. Were you trying to hide it or something? Not everybody's. I know two muscles. I understand it. Not everybody's proud to be Spanish-speaking. And one of my secrets to my success was my parents. Their native language was Spanish, Espanol, but they didn't speak it in the house because my mother was deathly afraid that I would wind up speaking English with a Spanish accent. And I have uncles, they're dead now, that used to say, instead of Chavez Regal, they say Chavez Regal. So the two happiest days of my mother's life was when I was born with blue eyes, a widow, so I could be distinguished, or I wasn't recognized as dark-skinned race, and the fact that she didn't promote me speaking Spanish. She did everything humanly possible to keep me from speaking Spanish, i.e. I can't speak Spanish worth a shit now. How many Russian speakers? French? German? The homework's due in English. And even though that's not a few of you's primary language, it will not be accepted in anything other than English. And Kim, it should be in Kim's inbox by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll talk about the homework later. We have a special guest. Duncan! That's my intercom system. Of the 65 rooms we have in the castle, that's the intercom system, even though we have an intercom. There you go. Okay. I'll get around to our special guest in a minute. We're missing one of you. Well, how come all the seats are full if we're missing one? Did the pendejo from Spain just get in? Oh, in the middle. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That's why I was asking about the Spanish speaking, and then I forgot. Anyway, so we have one that has gotten lost, and I'd like to say the subways, or I don't really give a fuck where he got lost. But this will be a transformational week for sure. As illustrated or validated, or whatever the right word is, by our guest that's going to be with us today and tomorrow. Who came in from Hungary, who's up there on the Hall of Fame. But we'll talk a little bit about what it takes to get up there and his own story. But it's not easy. As he said in an interview with me earlier today, a 12 or 14-year-old can read the steps and follow them. But there's a reason why I've been saying for 29 years was the anniversary of this program, day before yesterday, 0.0001 of the 7.8 billion people on the planet can do this. Emotionally. That's 1 in 10,000. So the real question you should be asking yourself, if you already, in everything that I'm going to talk about, 98% of everything I'm going to talk about is on my website free. There's 2% that's not. Are you one of the 10,000? If I was really ball busting, I'd show you the webinar from one of our current superstars, Thomas McGuire from Canada, who's half Chinese, half French. And he's going to say, look, well, not the people in the front row, but the next row. Look in front of you. They're not going to make it. Look to the right. They're not going to make it. Look to the left. They're not going to make it. Look behind you. They're not going to make it. And he'd be telling you the truth. The only caveat is he's talking about superstars that are making tens of millions. And even though I could probably write a fairly small check to some of you and you'd leave, he's talking about big money. Maybe 2 in the seminar will make it. All of you, if you follow the steps, will make a lot more money than you've got now, which, in all candor, is not saying much. You know, you're either a $5 hooker or an $8 hooker, but you're not a $5,000 hooker. So to say that you're going to have a lot more money than you got now is not too complimentary. Of course, I'm not here to be too complimentary. I'm here to be a realist. And probably my greatest trait and or my greatest chink in my armor is that I tell you exactly the fucking truth. And I know it's the truth the more it hurts. I don't know if it's still vogue for parents. Parents don't discipline kids, but when I used to get beat by my father, he'd say, "This hurts me more than it does you." I didn't believe him then. I don't believe him now. But that used to be the saying that you'd say as you're whacking your kid. "This hurts me more than it hurts you." But he said it every fucking time he beat me. But he knew how to beat because he was a cop, and he knew how to not leave bruises that showed. Because in school, when I was in school, they didn't take your shirt off to check if you had bruises, and they certainly didn't take your goddamn pants off to see if you've got bruises. So he knew how to do that. He knew how to do that. As I've said on the YouTube, contrary to what most of you have been taught, there are things as stupid questions, and we've got data to prove that people that ask the most questions take the longest to succeed. I'm going to say it slow. The people that ask the most questions take longest to succeed. And the people that ask the most questions aren't prepared. I'm not going to embarrass you and have you lie to me to say that how many of you covered all the material I told you to cover before you got here. Because you'll lie. Because you're used to lying to yourself. You're used to lying to yourself. And I ask every group, this is the 15th group from the Corona period that we've had a seminar. And due to my lovely wife, and we have the spacing now, and we've got all this crap, all of which costs a bunch of money to. And I said in February, when the police shut us down, the seminar then, that we were going to go through 4 or 5 stages of Corona. The world would never be the same. And it was good for us. And I said we were going to have negative oil, and that we were going to have the big tsunami coming, the black swan. For those of you that have some pennies in the stock market, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse. We just ran some numbers, which we'll go through in some depth tomorrow. We just came from Warren Buffett's great AGM. Warren looks older in person. And Charlie Munger, God bless him, he really looks old. He really looks old. Cantankerous old bastard that he is. I hope he lives another 20 years, though. But there's a lot of talk. If you gave Warren Buffett $10,000 in 1964, you'd have $82 gazillion. Now, I've been running the numbers all afternoon in between seeing some of you, and I don't know how they come up with that fucking number. But I've sent it off to my mathematician mentee, and he's going to have something by tonight or tomorrow morning to tell me $10,000 invested in Berkshire Hathaway stock, what it'd be worth as of December last year. December last year. But we have run the numbers for QLA. We've got a low case, and we've got a high case. The high case is reinvesting all the money, dividends like you do, all in. And the low case is having exits every 6 to 8 years. The low case is 1.48 billion with no investment. If you had started this in 1964. The high case is 3.8 to the 30th power. You know what that means, meatheads? 30 zeros. It's N-O-N, illion, not illion. There is no investment opportunity or vehicle that even compares. Yet I have one of the lowest following social media that exists. Because most people are smarter than you that came here because they know they can't do it. I've been calling some of the Spanish-speaking people pendejos earlier today, which is a colloquial, I don't know if it's a colloquial term, but anyway, kind of like stupid bastard or something like that. And but they figured out, why go spend 35 grand all in with travel for something I'm probably not going to do? You weren't that bright. You spent the money. And hope is not a strategy. And prayer is not a strategy, as I used to tell my mother. But if my mother were here and she died here, and Sally knew her, she would disagree with me that she is positive. All those Hail Marys and the rosaries, etc., that she said for me got me here. Briefly, I want Peter to come up. I just introduce him briefly. He's not going to talk right now. I just want you to look at him and not browbeat him too badly. But in 2016, you came here for the first time, correct? And he'll tell you his story. But he had a little job in Hungary, limited market, a lot of corruption, probably a lot more than tons of corruption, and he made it. And he's now, I believe, the largest private hospital healthcare operator in Hungary. That's correct. But it's been an interesting trip for him. I don't mean like a drug-induced trip, which he'll share with you. And he not only has a very vibrant and prosperous business, and a lot of the stuff he can't tell you because of confidentiality, and he did a partial exit already a year or two ago. And he's got some big things on the boil, as they would say here in Britain. And he's going to share, after dinner, he's going to go through Q&A, and then tomorrow, mid-morning, he's going to go through it again before he ventures back to Hungary. And I'm pleased that people like himself are willing to come back and share. I'm the kind of guy, I'm on board, pull up the motherfucking gangplank and drown, asshole. I had a dream the other night. I was floating up to heaven on a pool of blood. The people drowning in their own blood, gurgling. And they were trying to get on top of me to use me as a flotation device. Get off me, asshole. I'm just floating up to the Maker on a pool of blood. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Just like I said in February 2020, it was fucking over. And there's 5 things that have happened to me that I thank God. Sally, 1, 3 kids, and Corona, fucking motherfucking Corona are the 5 best things that have ever happened to me. Ever. And if you don't take advantage of this, you deserve to be in that pool of blood that I float up to fucking Valhalla on. And unless you think of it that graphically, you will fail. Just as Thomas Maguire, look in front of you, look behind you, look to the sides of you, they're not going to make it. More from Peter later on. Thank you, Peter. I'm going to ask if there's any questions, but I don't want to answer any questions. But anyway, are there any questions? Good. Okay, we're moving right along. And for those of you, most of you in this room, have never been around a high-performance person. Never. For those of you that worked at big companies, Ford, IBM, etc., you were never around the CEO, assuming they were high-performance. Because there's a lot of high-performance people, non-high-performance people that run big companies. That doesn't mean shit. Especially now, in the PC woke world that we live in. But most of you have not been around people like either those influencers, and yes, Hitler's up there, because Hitler was arguably the greatest public speaker in the last 100 years. and the greatest influencer of other people in the last 200 years. You equate high performance with goody two-shoes. And that's why you're poor. That's why you're poor. It has nothing to do with whether you're a decent person. And the worst word that I hear people use is nice. And I've said this many, many times on YouTube. Nice is a 13th, 14th century derivative, English Anglo-Saxon word for moron, retarded, idiot. And now look what it's morphed into. Oh, he's a nice guy. Well, that's the last person I wanted to go out with. When I was in the hunt, dear. When I was in the hunt. This week, starting tonight, starting actually right now, is the first day or the first few hours of the rest of your life. Now I should be more positive because words matter, not when, because all of you won't. Some of you, we have people that have taken 12 and 13 years to get rich. 12 and 13 respectively. They could have come back after 10 years and then started. And we've had people that have done it in a few months, not the least of which is Roberto from New York. 7 months, $70 million. That's not generational wealth to me, but it's better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. 7 months, 70 million, exit. For those of you that have watched my social media stuff, those are the things that you latch onto. I've also said 12 and 13 years, but that doesn't resonate with you because you don't want, God knows, you're already a loser at 48. 13 years, I'll be fucking 60. Just a bigger loser. Just a bigger loser. Duncan, are we ready? Hit it!